Squirrels! So hello, and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra video. My name is Chris, and today we've got more spoiler reveals. Well, just one, actually, as I've already sort of, just quickly watched to see how much was going on. But it's quite an interesting card that I think is worth talking about, and there's some cool Irelia art as well. So I'm first just gonna play the video, and then we'll give my thoughts. So there was the card. Scattered Pod, an Ionian card, 6 mana, 5/6. There we go. Play, draw a spell. It has a tune as well. Play, draw a slow, fast, or burst spell. Enlightened, I have elusive. And so we're going to just quickly run through the rest of the video because there's some cool artwork here that I think is worth showing off. And then we'll talk about Scattered Pod. So there's the artwork for Scattered Pod. Quite nice. We have a bunch of Irelia stuff. So here you can see Irelia fighting off some of the mists. And again, fighting off more mists. This one I think is particularly pretty badass. I don't know why, but it just looks really quite cool. She seems to be channeling something, and the things are all coming around her. Then, shock! Ah! She gets ruined! And oh no, look, Irelia is ruined. I think that's what this is. I would assume. Not really sure what happens to people when they get ruined. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe someone can explain that to me. Or maybe we don't know. I don't know. But this as well is pretty cool artwork. And again, something else that I don't know. I don't know if this has been confirmed or not. But I assume that we're getting like skins for this. There will be like Irelia skin. Of this. Maybe this is it. Of like a ruined Irelia and the threshed one from yesterday, was it? I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but let me know if that is confirmed. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But let's talk about our card here, Scattered Pod. Don't know why, like, it's like clear there, but like here it's a bit blurry for me. So, Scattered Pod. What do I think about Scattered Pod? So it's in 6 mana, 5/6, which is a decent stat line. Isn't that bad? I think Chief Mechanist Zevi has this stat line. And anything with 6 health is always quite difficult to remove before, you get into the like 7 and 8s. Anything with 6 is like normally pretty decent. And it has 5 attack as well, so it's a good blocker as well. So a perfectly good stat line. It has a tune, which is, I think, less relevant on turn 6, but it's still something. It's still an extra, sort of like a half mana, if you will, because sometimes it's not always needed. And yeah, it's an interesting keyword, isn't it? A tune. But it's useful, and having a tune on a card that draws you a spell is perhaps more useful. So maybe it is worth a bit more on Scattered Pod than in other cards. Now this wording is why I wanted to talk about this card, really, because is this you getting a choice? This is the thing that I was confused about, and something that I wanted to know about. And I'm too lazy to go searching for the answer, so I'm just gonna let one of you comment on my video telling me the answer. I am going to assume that you play it down, and then it says, do you want a slow, a fast, or a burst speed spell? And if that is the case, because I mean, I guess there is like what is called focus speed spells, but they don't really get put in your deck that often. Like gems, and they're mostly like those Riven combat tricks and stuff like that. They don't normally they're created by something or in your hand unless you shuffle it back into your deck. So I'm going to assume that it is, because otherwise it would just say draw a spell. I would have thought. I'm going to assume you get the choice. Now that is really interesting because, of course, because that essentially is a tutor at that point, and it's a tutor with a very, how do I say this? Like a low deck building cost. So when I talk about tutors, what I mean is a card that draws you, will always get you a certain card. We saw this with Zap Sprayfin in the old Twisted Fate Go Hard decks, right? Go Hard would be your only spell that was less than 3 mana, and therefore Zap Sprayfin would always get you a Go Hard, and that, you know, would then reliably allow you to play Go Hard or play Pack Your Bags or whatever, and was quite a powerful effect. Now this is the same, but that obviously, and Zap Sprayfin as an example, has a deck building cost. You can't, if you want to have a tutor for Zap Sprayfin, you can only have one 3 or less cost spell. And we saw that kind of like when the deck started to get nerfed a bit, people became uneasy about that to the point where they kind of got rid of the Zap Sprayfin tutor and said, well, we do need Valfeast. Valfeast is such a good card that I kind of can't do without Valfeast, so I'm going to put that in there, even though it ruins my tutor from Zap Sprayfin. Which is quite interesting, right? Whereas Scattered Pod doesn't really have that because, well, maybe it does in certain circumstances, but in others it doesn't. Because if you can build a deck that has, you know, only one version of a slow speed spell that you really, really want, well then, you know, Scattered Pod will get you that slow spell. And the same is true for Fast or Burst. Now, slow would be the one that I think would be easiest to manage. You know, where you only have one version of a slow speed spell. Don't exactly know what that would be. Obviously, this is an enlightened card. Karma going to 5 mana, of course, means that this, you know, goes quite well. You could play Karma on 5 and play this on 6, and it's quite a solid body on 6 as well, which would help, because obviously Karma doesn't have the most solid body in the world. Jokes aside. This is really interesting. You know, because someone somewhere is going to figure out how to use this as a good tutor. This is assuming it works how I think it does. If not, then this whole video is somewhat irrelevant. And if it is just, you know, draw a spell, then this is a lot worse and a lot less interesting as a card. But if it is a tutor of some sort, then this is really interesting because, like, you know, what spell would you want to do this with? You know, what like thing that you desperately want to have, what it's worth getting 100%. I mean, Go Hard, maybe that is your answer, you know. That could be your slow speed spell that you always are going to get. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you don't want Go Hard. Sometimes you need a, you know, a different option instead. And so instead you want a fast speed option. As I say, this goes pretty well with Karma, and Karma decks in general. And I think Spooky Karma could use something like this. And yeah, maybe it is Go Hard. Maybe I'm thinking about it now. Maybe it is Go Hard. You know, you have that as your slow speed spell. You don't, I mean, Ruination maybe, but I don't think you need to run Ruination. You know, and if you need like a Valfeast or a Withering Well, you just go for the fast option instead, and you get that guaranteed. And then, you know, later on this turns into a threat, and you're, you know, pretty much always gonna be getting into an, you know, turn 10 in any Karma deck, of course, unless you've lost. So this is going to be a threat that lets you deal damage to, you know, the Nexus as a 5 mana 5/6 elusive. This is like a really cool design of a card. And there's going to be, I mean, it is 6 mana, right? So like it is a tutor, but it's like, you know, not like one that you're going to get early on in the game. But it's such an interesting card, and it feels like there's going to be a lot of things that you could do with it. For instance, man, Spooky Karma, I'm just thinking about this card. This is insane because, for instance, if your only burst speed spell in Spooky Karma is Deep Meditation, then you could draw Deep Meditation if you need the card draw as well. Man, this is such an interesting card. Like, it's only one card, and so you'd think, oh, this is going to be like a 2-minute video. But this card is super, super interesting. There's so much you could do with this card. You could make a deck with, like, you know, 3 tutors if you wanted. I don't know why you would, but you could, you know, if you really wanted to. This, like, the more I'm talking about, the more I'm thinking about, the more interesting the card gets. And I'm sure there's so many different ways, you know, I mean, like, slow speed rallies or something like that come to mind, as well as, like, things you might want to tutor. Not sure that Scatpod is, like, suited for those decks necessarily, but, it, you know, maybe. I don't know. Maybe people could try around with those kind of things. And Ionia has always been a region that, personally, I just have never really liked. I find a lot of the card design in Ionia pretty dull. But this is not one of them. This is not one of them at all. This is one of the most interesting cards, I think, in the entire game. I love it. I love the card. How good is it? I think it's... And, you know, this is another thing. How good would I say this card is? I think this card is pretty good. Unless I'm misunderstanding the ability. But I think it's pretty good. I think. As long as I'm reading the abilities right. And if not, it should be like how I've described it. If Riot has made this card so that it just draws a spell, I'm going to be annoyed. Because my version of this card is way more interesting. And would be a lot more fun to play and deck build with. So if it is the other way around, shame on you, Riot. Because I should not be able to design more interesting cards than you. But I hope that it is what I've said. Because otherwise, I'm going to be disappointed. But that is enough for today. Now tomorrow I don't think I'll do a gameplay video. Probably going to do, if there's more reveals, I'll do a video on that. And then I'm also probably going to, showcase maybe a couple Viego decks and a couple Akshan decks. Well, Akshan, I don't know quite how you pronounce it yet. I don't think anyone does, to be honest. I'm sure someone does. But yeah, that's probably going to be the videos for tomorrow. So look out for those because, it should be interesting. I kind of want to see what I can build as well. Because after seeing the Viego thing yesterday, like that might have changed. That's changed my mind on some of these things. So yeah, and hopefully, if there are spoilers tomorrow, they don't, again, change my mind on things. But I will do a video about that. So, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow with those videos, and have a really nice day.